move stuff, unload stuff. And so they come, move everything he and I talked about. You need anything else? No. You positive? Yes. Me and Tim's kid's dad. Stood there, talked a few minutes. They got ready to go. I said, Daddy, you need anything else? No. Okay. 2 minutes, not maybe even 5 minutes after they're gone. He's like, hey, where's the box with my tax information in it? I don't know. Where is it? Well, did we get that in the trailer? I don't know. I said, did you need anything else? And you said no. Dude, it was literally in the back of the trailer, no exaggeration, under 50 boxes. And I basically had to unpack a trailer, and those boxes weighed anywhere from 20 to 40 pounds piece because they've got all this Bibles and books and stuff in them.
Yeah.
Dude. I mean, I had 3 teenagers standing there. It could have done it 5 minutes. Instead, it winds up taking me half an hour. And I was just like, dude, man, I ask you. Anyway.
That's the sort of thing that irritates the crap out of me.
Just drove me insane, man.
Hey, by the way, when I was editing the podcast, none of our lagging or anything showed up in the recording. None.
Perfect.
So if we have any issues tonight, unless it's just super bad, we just push through it.
Not a problem, man. Because I think we both do the same thing, which is we know we're lagging, so we'll wait for the one who is talking to finish talking, and then we kind of just
move on. Yeah, we just move on.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready?
Dude, I am ready.
Let's do it. Okay. My phone's silent. Yep. Alrighty. 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. Die and humans die.
Bullseye wants to kill cyclists because they slow down traffic.
Donny Cates can do no wrong.
All this and more on this week's episode of the 6 Months Behind podcast. That date's not right.
Yeah, it is. Oh, no, it's
no, it's not.
It's the 4th.
What is it? 4th?
Yeah. Just remember it's February 4th.
Something I doubt you. I'm tired.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
What is up? This is the 6 Month Behind podcast for the week of February 4th, 2019. I am Pat.
And I am Sean.
And this week we are Gail Simone in the Wendy's Twitter account. I gotta find out why. I didn't come up with this one. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Why are we the Wendy's Twitter account?
So I guess you didn't see what popped off on comic book Twitter this week, did you?
No.
So over the weekend, Gail Simone, who is a prolific comic book writer, she tweeted at the Wendy's Twitter account, "Hey, Marvel or DC?" And if you don't know anything about Wendy's Twitter account, whoever's running that Twitter account or whatever marketing department runs that Twitter account is really good at their jobs. The Wendy's Twitter account is always making funny comments, saying funny things, replying funny things to people. They're very good at promoting the Wendy's brand. And the Wendy's Twitter came back and said Marvel, which is when all the neckbeards on the internet went crazy. They're like, you're just some marketing executive on the other side of a computer. You don't know anything about comic books. The Marvel Twitter account proceeds to list off a tremendous list of comic books that they have enjoyed, including Fractions Hawkeye and a number of other Marvel titles that they have enjoyed, proving their Marvel cred. The first thing that was really funny was that you have all these people basically trying to make a hamburger restaurant prove that it's nerdy enough.
That is funny.
Yeah. So it's, I'll bet you're not a real nerd. Yeah, well, let me show you. By the way, eat hamburgers.
That's funny.
Then it went even further. Other brands started to get in on it. Arby's replied. I think a few others, Steakums replied. And then there was the reply from Little Debbie. And Little Debbie got real deep. Their reply was, our culture is obsessed with competition and comparison. We can't simply appreciate things for what they are. Preferences are fine, but often people act as if they have to hate one thing in order to remain loyal to the other. Okay. Just calm down, Little Debbie Twitter. Maybe you shouldn't have taken that second tab of acid. Just calm down. Anyway, the internet went nuts over Gail Simone and the Wendy's Twitter account this week, and it was hilarious. I was actually sitting at work when it happened. We were slow, and I watched it unfold in real time. It was a hoot. So yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Anyway, how are you this week?
I am well, man. I'm doing okay.
Good.
I have my normal amount of fatigue. Other than that, life's great.
Well, we're here at the end of the week, and that's just life, man.
Yes, it is. That's okay.
It's just life.
That's okay. I roll with it.
Yeah.
Dude, let me say this, though. I get one day, which is Saturdays, to sleep without setting an alarm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the other 6 days a week, there's an alarm going to tell me when to get up and where to be. On Friday night, which is the Saturday morning, I would have slept late.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for this so I can tell you exactly. I got phone calls at, they're just saying Friday at this point. It was like 1:55, 2 a.m., 3:05, 3:15 from the people who were delivering stuff to my house. An automated call telling me, hey, your stuff was going to be there. It's going to be here today, which is Saturday, even though it was delivered on Friday. Dude, at some point, those people are going to ask me to fill out a customer service form, and I'm going to express myself. And there's a good possibility I'm just going to call randomly and express myself tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
That's no good, man. When you got stuff to do and you're on a deadline and people can't be bothered to do their end of the job, that's no good, man.
Don't call me in the middle of the night.
That too.
I have a 10 o'clock rule. Like, if we're like conversing about something and it leads from like 9:55 to 10:15, okay. But dude, like you and I were tweeting early or excuse me, texting, and like you sent me a text and I went to sleep before I responded. Okay. Right. So at that point, don't blow my phone up wanting to know where I am, because it was like midnight or 1 a.m. when we were doing it.
Right. Like, had it not been a Saturday night, I probably wouldn't have texted you at all.
Right.
But it was a Saturday night, so I just was like, he might be up.
Yeah. And I was. Yeah. So.
And for those who don't know, I work nights and I work in a call center. And there are times where we have to call people at 2 and 3 in the morning. And sometimes it's over very trivial things, but things that we as a company are legally obligated to notify people on. If your fire alarm system, if the power goes out or blinks for a half a second and sends some sort of trouble condition to us, and it's your fire alarm system for your business, I understand that the power blinked. I understand that trouble condition happened and went back into normal condition 7 seconds later. But legally, we are obligated to notify you. It's a liability thing. And I have to call people at 2:30 in the morning and say, this happened on your fire alarm system. And they're like, why are you calling me? We have to notify you. And some people are okay with it and they get it. Some people are not fun. So yeah, I always feel bad about it, but I'm just like,
dude, it happens, man.
This. Yeah. Yeah, that's life, man. I don't know what you're doing, but it's making a ton of noise.
I think I'm playing. Am I playing with my cord? Is that
Dude,
it?
it sounds like you're taking a spring and just swinging it back and forth.
The cord is bouncing off the spring. Hang on.
Yeah, that's got to quit. That's
all right. I'm sorry.
It's drowning you out. Yeah, it doesn't sound loud to you, but it's reverberating through the microphone, and yeah.
All right. Sorry. Here we go.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to launch an email.
Yep.
Anyway, this is a comic book podcast. So if you want to get in touch with us and talk about what comic books you like or what fast food restaurants you like, you can hit us up at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6 months behind @gmail.com.
You can go to the website, which is 6monthsbehind.com, where there will be nothing about fast food.
And check out our other show, What's Next. It is a much shorter format show where we discuss other things that you can read in Marvel Unlimited, things you should be reading over things you probably shouldn't bother with.
Yeah. The next one will be on Chris Claremont and John Byrne's Uncanny X-Men. Probably 2 or 3 episodes of it.
I was going to say that's a lot of comic books, so that'll probably be a multi-parter.
Dude, there's like I got like 20 minutes just of background setting it up before we even get to Uncanny 94.
Okay.
Really?
All right then.
Hey, by the way, I remember last year looking at the Memphis Comic Expo and looking at the list and thinking there's no one there that I want to pay $25 to see. Not a soul. I'm Googling Chris Claremont because I'm kind of, I was looking for some interviews and stuff. There is a 110-minute interview on YouTube where he did a panel at the Memphis Comic-Con last October. And I'm like, how did I miss this?
Nowhere.
It couldn't have been because nobody discussed it at the comic book store I go to. It wasn't on their website. If you'd have put it there, I'd have been there, man. I'd have been sitting there asking questions.
Dude, I'd have been there. I'd have driven up to just.
I think we even had conversations about it.
We did.
It was like a couple of artists that you were remotely knew, and nowhere did it say Chris Claremont.
Yeah,
dude.
Uncanny X-Men fame writer Chris Claremont. The guy who basically made the X-Men what they are, Chris Claremont.
Yes. Dude, it was never there, man. Those people need to fire whoever's running their website.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, we discuss spoilers on this show. We're going to get into the Infinity War event, which we get number 1 this week. So we're going to get into big time spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled, if you have not read all the comic books that came out in this last week, pause here, come back later. Yes, go away, but then come back after you've read them. Yeah, don't go away forever, just for like a little bit, and then come back and listen to this podcast, and you won't be spoiled.
There you go. First up, we have Infinity Wars number 1, not Infinity War Countdown, not Infinity War Prime, but Infinity Wars number 1. First off, Mike Deodato's art in this book, it's just spectacular, man. The cover's great. The first thing is a full page picture of Gamora that is just, dude, it's just awesome, man. And all of his work throughout this whole book is just amazing. And it opens with Peter Quill and Gamora wants the Soul Stone, and Peter ain't giving it to her. And that's the bottom line. And she's like, okay, peace out. I'm leaving the Guardians, leaving you. I'm gone. Period.
Yeah.
Next, we find Peter finding the now very talkative Groot and Rocket, and saying, "Okay, we're going to Earth for this meeting." Throughout this whole book, Rocket expresses his hatred for Earth.
Yeah, it's a running gag that Rocket hates Earth. He thinks it's a backwater planet in the butthole of the galaxy.
Yes, and every time they come, they're coming to clean up someone else's mess. And just
I mean, he's not wrong.
No. So then we cut to Iron Lad, Drax, and Adam Warlock, who are on their way to the infamous meeting where Doctor Strange has gathered the members of what is becoming the Infinity Watch. We have Turk there, and Turk was told to come along. So, of course, he brings a cadre of villains with him, including Bullseye and Sandman. Dude, Bullseye's got some of the best lines in this book.
Yeah, he does.
He really does. There's a point Groot and Rocket are there, and he's just laughing like it's a tree and a raccoon. And then they start talking, and he's like, "Oh my God, it's a talking tree and raccoon. This is great." It's just,
yeah, he's trying to kill the people on bicycles because they slow down traffic.
Yeah, because the park's supposed to be empty, and Turk's like, "Yeah, dude, I scanned their mind. They're fine." He's like, "Yeah, but they're cyclists, man. Let me kill them anyway." And Turk's like, "No, let's not." So Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel are there, and they begin the meeting. They have 5 of the 6 gems. Noah is unhappy because the person holding the time gem, and isn't it the time gem that the Black Widow has? I believe.
No, she has the Power Stone.
No, I think Quill's got the Power Stone. Anyway, Black Widow is missing with
whatever the blue one is, because Doctor Strange has got the time gem.
The blue one is the blue space gem.
Space, that's it.
Yeah. So Bullseye doesn't believe she's there, and so she puts a round through the playing card he's thinking about throwing at someone.
Yeah.
Which pretty much ends that.
Right.
And he's pretty impressed because apparently it was quite a shot. Then, of course, we begin arguing about what to do with the stones, and they decide to check up on Thanos because they know Thanos is coming for the stones, except Thanos is a giant decapitated body.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanos is dead, by the way.
Yeah, if you didn't read the last issue, and we warned you about spoilers, at the end of Infinity Wars Prime, this new character, Requiem, decapitates Thanos.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you the truth. They never clarify all the way through the Infinity Wars, and this is a kind of a spoiler. I don't know. Let me put it this way: he never reappears.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now he kind of does, but you don't know if the character is insane and talking to himself in the form of Thanos, or if Thanos is actually there.
Yeah.
So you don't know if it's, you get the idea that the character's just insane thinking Thanos is there. That's the impression that's given. Anywho, then we cut to the God Quarry where Loki is there, wanting to figure out what's going on with everything. When a Loki from an alternate universe shows up, and I don't think we talked about this on a podcast. I think you and I talked about it on the phone. This is a cool Loki because he's got a breastplate and he's got 5 of the stones on the breastplate, and then the Power Stone loaded into Mjolnir. And
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
This Loki is basically super powered Thor from another universe.
Yes,
with the power of all the Infinity Stones.
Yes,
I thought this was really cool. Even though I don't really understand what this is doing with the story, this was just fun. I'm sure we'll get there, but right now I haven't connected the dots.
You remember when time ran out with Jonathan Hickman and all the universes are collapsed?
Yeah.
Essentially, they didn't get put back together properly.
Yeah, that's the impression I've been given.
And Requiem doesn't like the way they're put together, so he or she plans on fixing them.
Okay. Isn't that Reed Richards' fault?
You know, I don't know. This doesn't really address what Reed Richards, how Reed Richards played in this. I mean, it's kind of it's something that Jerry Dugan just didn't address.
Okay.
Because I thought the same thing when I was reading it.
Yeah, because time ran out, the universes ended, and then Doom put them all back together, or put one universe together using all the pieces of the different universes. Reed Richards took his powers and recreated the multiverse, and why we're seeing Marvel 2-in-1 is because the Richards family is out there, and they're basically recreating the cosmos, or have been for a little while. And
yeah,
to me, it seems like this would be the sort of thing where you'd be like, "Hey, Reed, did you you're really smart? Maybe you should have known." But
and when Fantastic Four gets here in a couple of weeks, you're going to see this. They don't line up. I mean, because that's exactly what the Fantastic Two and their kids have been doing, is recreating the universe. And when you get into Fantastic Four, I forget if it's issue 2 or 3, you're actually going to see all these universes and all the stuff they did. And, you know, I don't know, man. I can't reconcile the two.
Okay. Hopefully there's something like coming down the pipeline that kind of explains this, or otherwise it's one of those things where we did a big event and now it doesn't matter. And
yeah, okay.
I know what I want to happen, but I also know what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, we're just not going to talk about it anymore. Because I get into serious spoilers if I keep going here.
Okay.
I mean, because I can't do it. So anyway, the Loki that was there from another universe that had all the Infinity Stones very quickly dies. Kind of an ugly death. He gets splattered over Earth 616 Loki and the Librarian, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by some sort of interdimensional being that they're fighting.
Yeah, he loses the fight right quick and in a hurry. So then we cut back to the scene in Central Park where the Infinity Watch is gathered, and Turk points out that everyone was supposed to be in their stone except Peter. Was like, "Oh no, of course I got the stone." Like, nope, it's fake. And Peter's like,
oops.
Okay. Yeah, oops. And of course, that's when the fighting starts.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's the Avengers are waiting in reserve. Turk's got all the villains. And then Requiem shows up and drops the head of Thanos there. And she's like, yeah, okay, we can do this one of two ways. You can hand me the stones, or I can, I can kill you, whichever way you prefer. And they prefer to fight. The fight doesn't last very long until her helmet's knocked off and we realize that she is Gamora.
Yeah, I totally called this. Like when she showed up, when we started reading this Infinity thing, I was like, oh, it's totally going to be Gamora. And then she killed Thanos and I was like, it's Gamora. And then we read this and I was like, yep, I was right. It's Gamora.
Yeah. And at the end of the issue, she kills Peter Quill.
We think.
I don't remember. I think
it's literally the last page. It's one of them cliffhangers.
Yeah, I think so. If you go back to the beginning of this book where she said goodbye to him and hugged him, she switched the stones when she hugged him.
Yeah, she didn't hug him. She kissed him.
Yeah.
Which was her way of distracting him so she could swap the stones.
Yeah, so she swapped the stones.
Yeah.
It's a very good book. I'll say it again. Deodato's art is amazing. Jerry Dugan's doing a great job of writing this thing. I was really, really happy when I read it the first time, and I'm on, I don't even know, the 6th or 7th time of reading it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it better than the countdown stuff. So I'm looking forward to it going forward.
Yeah, we could have done without the countdown stuff.
I think so too. I think you could have taken the countdown stuff and condensed it into 3 to 4 issues.
Yeah, I mean, what you got to understand here is they've been leading up to this in the Guardians of the Galaxy basically since Secret Wars for 2 or 3 years.
For about 2 years now.
Or I guess Civil War, whichever one was the most recent war.
No, it was Secret Wars when they relaunched the book, and
so they've been leading up to it since then, And then you get the 5-issue countdown. Dude, the whole countdown thing could have just been a large size book. By the way,
it could have been that Prime book.
We talked about it last week. I paid $8 for Uncanny number 11 Wednesday. It was worth every penny I paid, and I would have paid 10 or 12 for it.
Yeah, what you didn't mention last time was that it was essentially a triple size book too.
It was a triple size book, and it had 3 stories. What it really had was one story told from 3 different characters' perspectives. So you get like this character story, this character story, and then this character story. And I'm just going to say it. So you've been warned about spoilers. So that Uncanny 11 that came out last Wednesday is the first time that Wolverine is reunited with the X-Men.
Yeah. It's him finally coming back.
Yes. That's one of the things that happens.
And that literally dropped last Wednesday. So we'll see it 6 months from now.
Yes.
So what?
That's it.
August? Yeah, we'll be talking about it in August.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, who's writing that? It was Matt Rosenberg, wasn't it? Or was it? Yeah.
I think there was one set of writers on the first 10 issues, the first story arc, and when that ended, someone else took over number 11, and I'm not going to lie and tell you I know who it is.
Okay. Because I saw them on Twitter this week talking about it, and they said, we actually did a page discount. We're doing the pages at a discount, but it's $11 because it's a plus size book. And he actually does the math for you, and it works out. It makes sense. He's like, here's what the cost of a page is. Here is what it costs per page of a comic book. We priced it at this point, which is actually a discount of, I think it was like 8 cents per page.
Yeah. A lot of times you get thrown in stuff, like you get alternate covers thrown in there, or you get a story that you couldn't care about reading in there. No, dude, this was like 50 or 60 pages of good storytelling.
Yeah. Cover to cover action.
Yeah. I mean, it was story. Like this character's perspective of what happened, Wolverine's perspective of what happened, and this character's perspective of what happened.
Yeah. Hey, look at that. Marvel put out a book that's way overpriced, and turns out it was right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's $10 comic book and worth $10.
$8, but yes.
Okay. $8. Well, after taxes, probably close to 10.
Yeah.
Still, to me, that's still a lot to ask of people, but I also understand it was a very special issue of a comic book.
It was, again, I don't need to keep talking or I'm going to do spoilers. It was very special.
Yeah. I tell you what wasn't special was Astonishing X-Men number 14.
Dude, I told you, man, this third story arc of Astonishing X-Men sucks.
Yeah. It's funny. Charles Soule left the book, and that's when it took a dive. And it's actually Matt Rosenberg writing it, who is a good writer, whose work I like, and who's doing really good stuff with the X-Men of late. He's kind of become the current X-Men guy at Marvel. But I don't know if he just wasn't into the story, or if it's an editing issue, or if he had to throw this together, but it's not very good.
No, not at all.
It's basically Alex Summers putting together his team of not X-Men, because he can't be the X-Men because nobody trusts him. And, he went to recruit Beast at the school he was teaching at, and the Reavers attacked, and they take out the Reavers here, but Hank gets fired because the Reavers attacked the school. Apparently Beast had Banshee locked in a cabinet this whole time. Everybody thought he was dead, but he was really just in a coma. And there's a couple lines where they mention that, but they give zero explanation of, what? He was alive and you didn't tell anybody, and you've literally just had him like chilling for a while? Like, and there's something up with him. Banshee's like, he's not himself. He's, and everyone keeps making remarks about it, that he's just, he doesn't seem himself. but there's no explanation. Maybe there will be in a couple issues. Let's see. They go recruit Colossus, who's been drinking a lot since him and Kitty split up. So he's like perpetually drunk all the time. And then they go see Dazzler, who's on a reunion tour. And there's like 5 people at this concert. And it turns out they're really not even there for Dazzler. They're there for Forge, who's her like sound and light dude. That pisses her off. They get ambushed by some dudes in an alley. Take them out. Dazzler actually saves them, which is kind of funny. But it turns out they're federal agents. So yeah, wasn't great. Wasn't terrible. I've seen worse X-Men writing. So, but it's a step and a half down from what Charles Soule was doing with the book recently.
Yeah. X-Men Gold number 33. I'm sure this is going somewhere, but I don't care. Storm
really?
used to be
was good.
I'm glad you think so. Storm used to be the god of a village. She left, so other people took her place in power. The young lady that was raising her, old lady that was raising her, actually, is told to worship the god or they'll kill her. She doesn't. They kill her. We cut to, I'm trying to remember what Rachel Summers is calling herself these days. It's not Requiem. It's something.
Who cares? It's Rachel Summers.
Anyway, so she breaks up with Kurt because, they're not at peace anymore.
She's got issues.
She's insane.
Yeah.
The Wakandan embassy tells Roro that, hey, your mom died. She goes there and winds up fighting the New Gods. Not Jack Kirby's New Gods, but the gods who took over when she left.
Place. Yeah. When you said New Gods, I was like, what? And I was like, wait, no.
Different gods.
Yeah, different New Gods. Yeah, I mean, we're getting a neat little Storm story, like background if you don't know, because of her weather powers. Storm was venerated as a deity in the village she grew up in. When she left to go join the X-Men, someone else came in. They're evil, supposedly, and Aurora's going to get to the bottom of it. I thought it was a neat little one-off character story.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
We also have the X-Men Gold Annual number 2, which is another one-off character story about a very young Kitty Pryde who, having just joined the X-Men, is taking a little reprieve and going to summer camp for the summer and learns about acceptance and friendship and stuff.
2 things. Number 1, I just didn't care. I'm like, okay, it's a 30 pages of Kitty at summer camp. Why do I care? Number 2, you realize she was 14 when a 20-something-year-old Colossus was macking on her.
Yeah, seriously. I think they've retconned that just a touch. I think they've closed the gap just a touch, but it's still a thing because they even made reference to it in the wedding issues.
Dude, they may have closed it, but you just showed how old she is in this issue.
Yeah, she's 13, 14.
And even if he was 17, okay, in a couple of years, she was 16 and he was 19, and it's still illegal.
Yeah, depending on what state you're in.
This is true. If you're in the South, it's perfectly legal.
Yeah, it's perfectly legal for them to get married without even their parents' consent.
If your name's Roy Moore, you hit on her when she's 12.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it wasn't bad. We're kind of busting on it. It wasn't a bad story. It's actually kind of a nice story, but as always with these annuals, it seems like they're always just these one-off throwaway stories that, in the greater scheme of things, don't have any bearing on what's going on in the comic book series regularly. And it's a nice Kitty Pryde story, but I mean, she meets another mutant at camp, and they kind of bond a little bit, and she has some tensions with her friends and whatever. But it's let me put it this way: if I had spent what was probably a $5.99 issue because it's an annual, I'd have been upset.
Years ago, and when years, I mean decades, the annuals were really good. They were events. Reed and Sue got married in Fantastic Four Annual number 3, arguably the greatest comic book of all time. They did big crossovers in the annuals. Rogue was introduced in Avengers Annual number 10, I want to say. There was a Thanos event that went from a Marvel 2-in-1 annual to, I think, an Avengers annual. It was like, it had a lot of Avengers issues leading up to it. Then it ended in 2 annuals that summer. Dude, but these days the annuals just suck.
Yeah, and it's just how they treat. To me, I don't understand why they're doing annuals anymore at all. And it's one of these vestiges of the 70s and 80s where they're just hanging on to it because that's old school comic book culture, but it makes no sense to continue doing annuals.
No. Next we have The Hunt for Wolverine, Weapon Lost, number 4. The team of Misty Knight, dude whose name I can't remember, and Daredevil have tracked the company that has some of the information on Wolverine to their building. The company immediately sends in a level 4 kill team, which is whatever a level 4 kill team is. No one seems to know, but they do know they're pretty serious about killing everybody. When this is done, what they learn at the end of these 4 issues is Logan is alive. They've brainwashed him and he's been trained to kill.
So pretty much what we guessed from the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Daredevil has to call Kitty and say, you got problems.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm really glad all these Hunt for Wolverine books are wrapping up.
Just, in my opinion, I like the Madripoor book with the 4 ladies in it. We got one of them last week, had Magneto in it. I kind of like that one. I like this one. The one with the zombies, I don't even care about.
No.
The one where it's got the new Avengers in it, I don't care about that one either. I don't. They're just, I call it the new Avengers. It's Iron Man, Luke Cage,
Spider-Man,
his wife. It's the new Avengers.
It's the new Avengers. Yeah, this one was good. Like the Daredevil story is good. And the one with the like you said, the Madripoor one is not bad.
Right.
The story's not great, but the art looks good. So that's helpful. But dude, to be honest, if I were buying these off the newsstand, I'd have kicked them after the first issue.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Yeah, and this is the benefit of Unlimited is we get to read these things for a flat, essentially what I paid for one comic book last week. We get to read these things and they're good. And this is something that we wouldn't have read. And I did enjoy this series. The other 3, not so much.
Right. Like I wouldn't have read this one had I gotten one of the, the first issue and went, bleh, this has nothing to do with Wolverine, really. This is a story about something else.
Right.
They put Wolverine on it to sell books.
Right.
So I'd have just dropped it. Another book that I'm ready to drop is Weapon X-21. I feel like this comic was good for the first 10 issues, maybe 15, and has really gone off the rails here. First of all, they've swapped up artists on us, and this art does not fit the style of comic book that this is supposed to be. It's impressionistic and goofy. It lends a certain comedic quality to the material that I don't think is supposed to be there, that you're not supposed to interpret as a reader. But with this exaggerated weird art, and I'm not saying it's bad art, it's not, it just doesn't suit this comic book. In what is essentially supposed to be an X-Force comic where they're brutally murdering people and fighting the Sickle, which is the Russian version of Shield, corrupted Russian version of Shield. It comes off as goofy and weird, and it doesn't work, man. It just doesn't. You got Victor Creed leading the team, which I'm not super into. They take down Sickle. Mystique shows up at the end. It's weird because I actually like the art. I just don't like it for this comic. And that's a shame because it's good art that lowers the overall quality of the book because it just doesn't reflect the source material.
Right.
Yeah. So how'd you feel about it?
Well, first off, I'm not a fan of that art at all.
No.
I enjoyed the book. It's entertaining. There's some plot twists there with Sabretooth, putting him to work for Mystique as hired guns again.
Right. Yeah.
There's some stories there that are interesting. If you go back to the standard we held it to before, would I be paying $4 a month for it? No, I haven't been, and I wouldn't. I mean, nope. Here it is. I buy the DC crossover that Tom King is doing.
Heroes in Crisis.
Heroes in Crisis.
I read that recently, at least the first 4 or 5 issues. It's good.
Yeah, it's very good. I buy Avengers. I buy Uncanny X-Men, which I recently added. I buy Tom King's Batman. That may be it. That's what I'm willing to part $4 to $10 off the newsstand for on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's it, man. That's, and 2 of those books, the Avengers and the Uncanny X-Men, come out twice a month.
Yeah.
And Batman comes out twice a month.
Yeah. Batman does come out twice a month. In fact, I think I got an issue I need to read.
So that's it. That's what I'm willing to spend money for. Would I be spending money on this Weapon X book? Absolutely not. And God knows I wouldn't be spending money on Scarlet Spider.
Oh, Lord, no. I've made my feelings clear on Scarlet Spider.
As we get to our Spider-Man books, we get to Ben Reilly, Scarlet Spider, number 22. And it opens with Kane, where we left him last issue, in a house that went underground. And apparently he is in heaven. And there's a lot of deaths and a lot of people granting or not granting, apparently, people's prayer request, apparently, because he gets to fighting with a group of angels and then it encounters the Archangel Gabriel. Then we cut to Ben Reilly, who knocks on the door of the same house. The mysterious little girl that we've had there for so long is there. Then he runs into Gabriel and says, and he makes a pretty decent case, which is, Mephisto's here. All these demons are here. Why do you have trouble with Gabriel and angels being here? And Ben's like, well, okay, I guess so. All right. He gives him Kane bundled up in a closet and says, here, take care of this. There you go. That's your issue.
Yay.
It was all right. All right is a out of 5 stars, they get like 1.5. That'd be 1.
No, that's poor. You had 5 stars and you got 1.5 a star. That's poor. If that's a Yelp rating, that's bad.
Okay, yes, it's bad.
Yeah, it's bad, dude. This book has been bad for 22 issues.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to our mainline Marvel comics, Ant-Man and the Wasp number 4, which until this 4th issue, I did not realize Mark Waid was writing. Which is why it's not half bad. I actually the first issue was weird and then it kind of found its footing. If you haven't been reading it, Scott Lang and Nadia Pym get stuck in the quantum realm with the help of some sort of alien creature from another universe. They're able to escape the quantum realm by means of quantum entanglement. They get back to their universe. Their little alien friend is very curious about everything on Earth, to the point of like causing some trouble. They get back to their lives for a moment when Nadia walks into her lab and there's Hank Pym eating an apple and he's like, hey honey, can I help you with some work? Yeah, that's one of the first weird things. Scott Lang's got a fan club. Everybody loves him, which is not how things are in real life. Long story short, it turns out this is a Earth, but it's not their Earth. It is some other Earth. So now they have to figure out how to get back to their Earth rather than this one. Although Nadia is kind of conflicted because her dad's there. So she's like, maybe we can just stay. And Scott's like, dude, no, we can't. Do you understand what the consequences of that would be? We cannot do that. So it was good.
There you go.
Yeah, I've actually gotten to where I like this combination of Ant-Man and the Wasp of Scott Lang and Nadia Pym. I think this is a mini series. I think it's 5 or 6 issues. But I'd like to see them team up again.
Okay. Next, we have Captain America #2. This is, of course, the Ta-Nehisi Coates series, and I'm going to butcher this name, but Lionel Francis Yu is doing the art.
Lionel Francis Yu. He's the guy who did Civil War.
That's not how you spell Lionel, but okay.
Yeah.
Lionel's Lionel.
Well, it's Lionel Francis Yu.
Okay, fine.
You don't know who he is, dude?
No, I do know who he is. I mean, I'm very fond of his art. I've just never had to pronounce his name on air before. And he does. And the point was, his art is very, very good in this book.
Mm-hmm. He was the perfect artist to pair with Ta-Nehisi Coates for this.
Yeah, he really was. This is really good. The story here is there are people who help me out. Feel that Captain America has disgraced America, so they're stepping up, mainly the nukes of the world, and Captain America is there to stop them when Thunderbolt Ross and Sharon Carter show up and say, yeah, we don't need your help. We're still not sure you're you, so why don't you stand down? And
yeah, he nobody really trusts him. In fact, there's some who think that Hydra Cap and this Captain America are one and the same, that it's some big conspiracy. And the fact of the matter is, people don't trust Captain America anymore.
No. And he goes in there with Sharon, and Sharon's like, yeah, I love you, but you got to stand down here. And then Thunderbolt Ross tells him the president has told him to stand down. So what does he do? He contacts the Black Panther and some people from Wakanda to not stand down, but go on the attack.
Yeah, he's got his own misgivings about what Thunderbolt Ross is doing here. And Sharon to some extent. If you read further into this, because I've read the first 5 or 6 issues. He's suspicious also, and so he's kind of taking his own clandestine actions to figure out what's really going on here. Meanwhile, you have this what seems like another rising Hydra faction. It's not in this issue, but at the end of the first issue, there's some stuff going on.
Yeah.
What'd you think of it?
It wasn't bad. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Coates is, this is a slow burning story. Everything he writes, particularly his comic book material, understand he's not traditionally a comic book writer. He's doing this because it's fun, and he's got the kind of clout that, he can walk into the Marvel offices and say, I want to write a comic.
His stuff is sold well, which is giving him even more clout.
Right. There's a reason he's writing Captain America right now. Right. It's a slow burn. So if this is taking a long time for you, or you're getting bored with it, just hang tight, or maybe come back to it when you can read it in 6-issue bursts, because reading it all together in one is, I think, really fits his style of writing better, because he writes long term. He's not writing for a 3-issue or 6-issue arc. He's developing something here.
In one of the Claremont interviews that I watched or read, he was discussing writing for a single issue versus writing 6 issues for a trade paperback, or writing long term. And he discussed the pros and cons of each. And he said you really should write each issue independently so it can sell. At the same time, if you look at what he did with the X-Men, he sowed seeds in X-Men number 100 that didn't manifest until 136. I mean, he would sow a seed and then it wouldn't, he started the Proto Saga in Uncanny 104, and then you didn't get the whole series until 124, 20 issues later. And it's Ta-Nehisi Coates does a good job of doing both.
Yeah.
Writing both something that's very good right now, and as Claremont did, writing something that's sowing seeds for the long term.
Yeah. And even because I was listening to another podcast where they were talking about this, and they're a little further along than we are because we're 6 months behind, but they were like, I wasn't super into this Coates Captain America for a while, but after having read the 6th or 7th issue and then gone back and read them all as one piece, I understand that this is just the writing style of Coates, and that coming from the background that he does, which is essentially nonfiction writing, this is just his style, and it's always going to be a slow snowballing buildup to something more important. And if that's not your thing, I get it, but I think you should hang on for the ride.
Sure.
Cosmic Ghost Rider number 2. This is why I say Donny Cates can't do any wrong, because this book is phenomenal. You got Dylan Burnett doing the art here. If you didn't read the first issue, the Cosmic Ghost Rider, who is Frank Castle imbued with both the power cosmic and the Ghost Rider demon, and who's lived for thousands of years, is he went back in time and was going to kill baby Thanos, but instead of killing baby Thanos, he decided he's going to kidnap baby Thanos and turn Thanos, nurture him into a sane human being, or not human being, but whatever he is. Anyway, he's gonna raise him right, as they'd say here in the South. So he takes him to this alien planet, and he takes him to a bar. Okay, first mistake. He's letting baby Thanos drink a beer. Second mistake. Then he gets into a bit of a fight with an alien here and tells him what murder is, and the baby Thanos starts murdering the guy. And yeah, anyway, it's all bad. So he's waiting for a friend. Turns out that friend is Galactus. And if you don't know about the Cosmic Ghost Rider, he was Galactus's herald for a minute. So he goes to Galactus and says, "Hey man, here's this thing I did. What do you think? Can you help me with this?" And Galactus is like, "Dude, you're insane." Which is when the Watcher shows up, and the Watcher's like, "Yeah, I'm here to observe an event because you're about to make a colossal mistake." And he's like, "You know what? Nah, I'm gonna raise this as my own child, and he's gonna be a good Thanos." And that's where the Watcher's like, "Yeah, there's the terrible decision." Then Cable shows up, so that'll be fun. And by the way, Cable shows up with Jubilee, an adult Miss Marvel who also seems to be wielding Captain America's shield, Rocket Raccoon, who is also Groot. I mean, he's Rocket Raccoon, but he has Groot's body, and a Howard the Duck imbued with the power of the Juggernaut. So yeah, this thing is crazy, zany, and weird, and great. And I don't even care that this is so out of character for Frank Castle, because it's so much fun. Because the Frank Castle you and I know would have shot baby Thanos and not even thought about it. But I'm going to chalk it up to being alive for
thousands of years.
Yes. Getting the power cosmic and being Galactus's herald and the Ghost Rider for a very long time, to kind of changing Frank Castle. But I don't care, because the comic book's really fun.
Sure. Next, we have Deadpool number 3. I struggle with how to summarize these books, because so much that's in these Deadpool books is the nuance of Deadpool breaking down the fourth wall, and you lose that. You lose that in the book. I hope I got that muted in time.
You did. God bless you.
Thank you. You just lose these nuances, so it's very hard to recap. There's an alien from outer space, and his power is to puke all over everything and then destroy what he pukes on. The Avengers have recruited Daredevil. Apparently, all the teams are here. The Avengers, the X-Men. Did I say Daredevil?
Yeah, Deadpool.
I'm still recovering from a sneeze. Okay.
It's okay.
Deadpool. Yeah, they're all here, and Deadpool eventually kills the monster. They remember to wrap his loins in baby dolls again. And at that point, everyone wants to hire Deadpool, which is the purpose of it. And then at the end, he has to go pay off the galactic being that he paid to send the monster to Earth for him to destroy.
Right. So if you remember in the first of the series, Deadpool opens his gun for hire business, isn't getting a lot of calls. So he hits up this dude. He's like, hey, send a crazy alien dude to Earth. Give me the only means to kill him, and it'll make my business boom like crazy. Because that's a crazy idea that Deadpool would have.
Yes.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yes.
We got to see Negasonic Teenage Warhead in action.
Yep.
It was funny.
Was she in action, or was she just angry?
Oh, no, she gets in the field and blows some stuff up.
She was also angry too.
Well, she's always angry.
Yeah.
Moving to Death of Inhumans #2. Oh, look, it's Donny Cates making me care about an Inhuman comic book. You've got stellar art from Ariel Olivetti. Now, part of the reason I like this comic book is they're killing all the Inhumans. I hate the Inhumans. So watching them all die in horrible ways is right up my alley. But it's more than that. You put it in the hands of Donny Cates, who's actually turning this into a really good story. And I'm sold, man. So the Kree Empire has been killing all these Inhumans, and Black Bolt has been making a list. Almost said Black Panther. It ain't Black Panther. Black Bolt's been making a list of all the Inhumans that are dying. So after the last one, where they kill Maximus and Lockjaw, the only one I'm sad about is Lockjaw. I don't care about the others.
Yeah.
Forget the others.
Yeah.
He gives the order to Karnak to go to the Kree and discuss surrender. So Karnak shows up. And if you don't know anything about the Kree, their home world has been destroyed. The Supreme Intelligence is dead. And the people in charge of the Kree Empire now, what's left of it, are this fanatical group of Kree warriors who actually had never set foot on their home planet. So Karnak says, okay, we're here to discuss surrender. And the Kree start talking about their conditions, and Karnak's like, oh, wait, hang on. You thought you meant our surrender. No, we're here to discuss your terms of surrender. Which is when I forget what this dude's name is, but it's the evil Black Bolt who's killing all the Inhumans. He looks like Black Bolt. We don't really know who it is at all. And then, of course, Black Bolt shows up and starts screaming at everybody. And if you know anything about Black Bolt, that's his power. His voice could literally destroy the planet with just a whisper. So imagine him screaming. He's literally tearing people and things apart at the atomic level. I mean, he's just wrecking people. And there's this monologue going over while he's doing this, because what he's doing is he's using the names of all the Inhumans that have been killed as the weapon. And in fact, what they call this is they have a term for this. in Kree lore called what was it? The Black Eulogy. Because he just wrecks the place. It's insane. Anyway, they almost kill Karnak, and then I'm not going to tell you what happens in the last couple pages because you deserve to see it for yourself. But more Inhumans die. We'll just put it there.
Yeah,
it's good, man. I hate the Inhumans, and this is an Inhuman comic that I enjoy.
Yeah, it's really good, actually. So something else is really good is the Immortal Hulk #4.
I'm loving this series.
What do you call this series now? I mean, is it a horror series? Is it you and I were discussing genres of horror the other day.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if I'd call it horror. It's maybe soft horror because it has some elements. I'd call it I don't know.
A very tense drama. How about that?
Yeah. It's a very tense drama that has some light horror elements.
Right. So it opens with our character reporter, Jacqueline McGee, who is tracing the horse. The Hulk.
No, not the horse.
Yeah, the Hulk across the desert, where she's joined by Walter Langrowski, also known as Sasquatch, who was also endued with gamma powers. And they start off looking for the Hulk. And we get some flashbacks to where Walter and Bruce were in college together. I'm trying to figure out who wasn't in college with Bruce Banner. Reed Richards was, Tony Stark was, Peter Parker.
Like, even though Peter Parker's supposed to be way younger than him. Yeah.
I mean, in different comics over the last 2 years, we've seen them all sharing time together. So we get an origin of Sasquatch here. Then we cut to a Hulk appearance, and we're in this bar, and these two dudes are fighting as they're trying to quiz the bartender about the Hulk sighting. These two dudes are fighting, and one of them finally puts a knife in Walter Langowski's back. And he's rushed to the hospital because he's dying. And Jacqueline is sitting there waiting to find out who he is when Bruce Banner sits beside her and says,
hey, here I am.
How you doing? Yeah. And the thing is, Bruce is like, yeah, there's a problem. Okay. Because whatever's happened to these Hulks, she's like, or Bruce is like, yeah, Walter's going to die, but when it gets dark, it's going to be real bad for everybody because he's going to come back to life, and he's going to come back to life as a Sasquatch, except it's not going to be the Sasquatch she wants it to be. And sure enough, on our last page, that's what happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you're wondering, yes, this is the same Sasquatch from Alpha Flight.
Yes.
Yeah. It was nice seeing his semi-origin story because I didn't know anything about him.
Yeah, Walter Langrowski has never had all of his bricks in the barrel, which is a redneck way of saying he's half crazy.
Yeah, I got that.
And he's always kind of been half crazy. And they're just Al Ewing in this Immortal Hulk book is
playing it up.
It's just playing it up and carrying it to the logical extreme.
Yeah. Traditionally, I've not been a big Hulk fan. Amadeus Cho being the Hulk got me reading the Hulk, and then Al Ewing doing this Immortal Hulk series has really gotten me into it. This is good. If you can take somebody like me who's not a big Hulk fan and make them, this is like the top of my reading pile. I think this was the first comic book I read this week.
I think it was for me too.
Yeah, this is, we're only 4 issues in, but Al Ewing's doing a great job here. And to me, Al Ewing's another one of those writers who can do no wrong. Like everything he touches is good. So
yeah, and it's when they chose to bring Bruce Banner / the Hulk back from the dead, they had to create a storyline that made sense to do it. And Al Ewing is doing a masterful job of weaving that storyline.
Yeah, absolutely. He gets Bruce Banner. He understands what makes a good Hulk book is Bruce Banner kind of being on the road and on the run and having that story told from the perspective of a reporter trying to find him is, that's a good technique. And weaving in some like light horror elements really makes the book pop. It gives you something to come back for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Enjoying it thoroughly.
Yep.
Moving to Star Wars, we have Star Wars number 52. So if you haven't been keeping up with this, the Rebel fleet have launched their big base where they're all operating out of. Except they were betrayed by someone, and now all the tech that's in that base doesn't work, which is just when the Empire shows up and decides they're just going to take out the rebels like sitting ducks. Now, what happened is they think they can get these doors open so that they can scramble their fighters to fight the Empire. But it takes flying at the doors directly and just hoping they open. But the people on the base don't know that. Princess Leia does and is able to relay that message to Han Solo, but he's in the Millennium Falcon outside the base and can't get the message because the comms don't work to the people inside the base. Now he's trying to get into the base, but Darth Vader has entered the fray and is after the Falcon and is not going to let that happen. So the solution they come up with is don't try to go for it. Stick C-3PO in an escape pod and shoot the escape pod at the doors of the base so they'll open for C-3PO and he can relay the message, which works to C-3PO's great joy because he hasn't been destroyed. And Luke Skywalker hops in his X-Wing with his Rogue Squadron. They get out there into space and now the fight's on. So we'll see what happens in the next issue. It was good.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this current story of the Empire and the Rebels duking it out over the space.
Yeah.
We also had the Last Jedi adaptation number 5. This is the second to last issue of this. You get the big throne room fight scene here. You get the Resistance fleeing the First Order and destroying the big Star Destroyer. It was also good. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Good. And what was your favorite book this week? What did you enjoy the most?
It was almost Captain America, but honestly, it was Ghost Rider number 2. Cosmic Ghost Rider number 2.
You know, Cosmic Ghost Rider number 2 is good. Immortal Hulk is good. But I'm going with Infinity War. Mainly, I'm going to tell you the truth. Mainly because of Mike Deodato's art. There's some good writing in there. Those lines with Bullseye are great. There's some funny lines. The story's going somewhere, but dude, his art's off the chain, man.
Cool. His art is really good in this. And Mike Deodato always does good work, but this in particular is very good.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
When you get to an event like Original Sin or something like this, where he's obviously taking his time with it and worked on it, as opposed to like when he was doing Old Man Logan a few months ago. And it wasn't that he was rushing it, but you're doing a monthly book. And with this, okay, you've had time to plan it out and think about it and, you know, maybe take a year to draw 5 issues.
Right. He's had some lead time here. So
right.
This is A+ work from a AAA artist.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nah, man, Cosmic Ghost Rider was so fun and zany and just up my alley that I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah.
In the dump this week, we have a Punisher series from 1998, some issues of Cable and X-Force, which I'll probably go check out. A Black Panther series from 1988, which was a full year before I was born, and some Moon Knight issues from 1980.
God, you're young.
Not that young. I'll be 30 in a few weeks, so, you know.
Dude, I had 2 kids in 1988.
I know. Oh, and there's also something else I didn't mention. There's a Marvel Preview number 10, which is, it was written by Jim Starlin. I don't know if that's like a special issue or something, like a first appearance of somebody, but that's also there. Thor's on the cover.
Yeah.
And a single issue of Avengers Unplugged.
Yeah, that was a bad series.
Yeah. Oh, and
bought,
the first issue of Spider-Man versus Punisher as well from 2000.
I bought the first 2 or 3 issues of Unplugged off the stand and just said, no, this is just bad.
I don't remember it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that will do it for the show. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
You can check out the website at www.6monthsbehind.com.
And also check out our other show, What's Next. In the most recent episode, we'll be discussing Chris Claremont's X-Men, which will be up very shortly.
Yes.
Pat, as is our tradition, do you have any wisdom to leave us with this evening?
John Lennon told us to count your age by friends, not years. Count your life by smiles, not tears.
Is that a song or just something he said?
I really don't know. I don't remember it being a lyric of a song, but it's quite possible it was because his catalog and the Beatles catalog is so big. But I don't know.
Yeah. R.I.P. John Lennon. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace.
Okie dokie. You up for it?
Yeah, I could probably go 20 minutes without peeing, but I'm going to go pee just to make my life easier.
That's a good idea. You should do that.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Okie dokie. Are you ready? No, because you're muted and chewing on something.
Okay. There's no way to clear these notes, is there?
No. You can just post new notes.
I'm just going to post at the bottom.
And they'll scroll up.
It's just a few. Man. And my parents are banging around in the bathroom, and I was hoping to give them a couple of minutes and they'll be through.
Okay.
But I think they are, and I'm ready when you are.
Okie dokie. All right.
Bear with me. I got to get back so I remember what to say. Okay.
Are you sure it's Uncanny X-Men number 66?
Yes.
Okay, because I don't see a 66.
It goes from 66 to 94.
Okay. All right. You ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1.
Hello again. This is the What's Next podcast. I am Pat.
And I am Sean.
And we're the guys from the 6 Month podcast, 6 Months Behind podcast, who bring you other things to look at. And in this episode, and probably a few more episodes, we're going to be looking at Chris Claremont's run on the Uncanny X-Men. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So that X-Men Second Genesis book came out. And for some reason, it led me to look at the Uncanny books. And I got to looking at Chris Claremont's run. And the other thing I did was I was like, okay, what are we doing for what's next? And I ran through the list and I was like, oh, we haven't done Chris Claremont. You know, we haven't done the Dark Phoenix saga or any of his run. I thought we had. I thought we covered it a couple of years ago, and apparently we didn't. So
no, we've talked about some of the X-Men stuff, but it's mostly been the modern stuff.
Yeah, and we never covered this. So I thought, okay, this will be a what's next. Then I thought, well, this will be 2 what's next. Well, what's next? I'm not sure how many it's going to be. I think I'm at 3, but I reserve the right to make it more.
Yeah.
Because as I got to looking into this, I learned so much about Marvel and the X-Men and Chris Claremont, things I didn't know, things I've learned, just things in general, about this running. And it was so, here's the thing, and we'll get into this in a moment, but when you look at what Chris Claremont, Len Wein, did I pronounce that right?
Yep.
And John Byrne did, were things that had never been done before. In the way of the characters of the team, you had a Russian on the team, you had an
African
Japanese, woman. An African woman, a German guy. You had all these different nationalities on the team. A Canadian,
a German Blue Demon.
Yeah, and so you had all of that. None of that had been done before. When they started sowing the seeds for what became the Dark Phoenix saga, as a throwaway, here's how this happened, and we'll discuss this more in a couple of podcasts. But they're like, okay, she becomes Dark Phoenix. She goes, she blows up the sun. These people die. Okay. The editor read it, and he thought, okay, goes to print. Literally, the proof comes out. Jim Shooter, who's the editor-in-chief, reads it, and he's like, she just killed billions of people. And they're like, yeah. Byrne and Claremont are like, okay, yeah. He's like, okay, what are you going to do with her? Is she going to jail? You going to punish her? What are you doing with her? And they're like, well, we thought we just punish her. No, she's got to die. You can't kill 6 billion people and there'd be no repercussions. And it became this really just a enormous controversy between the three of them, an argument actually, what are they going to do with Jean Grey? And eventually she committed suicide in Uncanny number 136. Again, you very seldom had comic book characters really die. You certainly never had one commit suicide before. The Comics Code Authority refused to put a stamp on it. It was huge. It was just, and these are the kind of things they did in comics in the X-Men. Forget how they recreated the X-Men, which we're fixing to start talking about. There had never been comic books like this before.
Yeah.
And in the late 70s, early 80s, 80, 81, 82, there were two comic books, man. There was Uncanny X-Men and there was Frank Miller's Daredevil. That was it. Everything else was running far behind, trying to figure out how to catch up with what those two dudes were doing.
Yeah.
So, anywho, let's back up to the beginning. In the beginning, there was Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And they created the Fantastic Four, and they created Iron Man, and they created the Avengers. And one of the next few books that they created was the Uncanny X-Men.
And lo, they looked upon their creation and said it was good.
Yes. And on the sixth day they rested.
Yeah.
And the Uncanny X-Men never really reached the heights of the Fantastic Four and the Avengers. But it was a real important book to Stan Lee, so he kind of never allowed to be canceled because, when you started writing it, I forget what the date on the first issue is, 63, I think.
63, yeah.
Yeah, okay. This was a civil rights statement. That's what this was.
Yeah.
Okay. Marvel couldn't do a book about African Americans being oppressed in the United States, but you could paint them up as mutants, and then you can make all your political statements in it.
Right. It's like how Star Trek does.
Sure, which is the same thing Star Trek did, which is what Lee and Kirby did in this book. And it's not that it was bad. I mean, you had all the classic characters there. You had Magneto. You had some other characters. It just didn't sell the way the other books did. Somewhere around 68 or 69, they brought in a young Neil Adams. And if you don't know who Neil Adams is, he and who was it? Did that Green Arrow, Green Lantern story that was so huge? The one where Speedy's a drug addict.
Yeah, if you'd not asked me, I could have told you.
I can't remember the other guy's name. Anyway, before he did that, in 68 and 69, Neil Adams was drawing the X-Men. And it was kind of a last-ditch effort to salvage the X-Men from cancellation. And at the time, he and Jim Steranko was doing a lot of work on S.H.I.E.L.D. and Captain America, and they were doing some, to be honest, I think they were doing LSD and then drawing because some of their artwork was just off the chain. And some of this X-Men stuff, I never read it before. Maybe I had, but I forgot it. But I went back and glanced at them again, and they're really good, man. I mean, Neil Adams stuff in this is just, it's good. The problem was there was a young X-Men, there was a young intern at Marvel who was having to read all the hate mail that Neil Adams was getting for his art because it didn't look like Jack Kirby's. And that young intern happened to be a man named Chris Claremont, who was, I want to say, in his freshman year of college, maybe, and was interning at Marvel, and one of his jobs was reading the mail. So he got to read all of Neil Adams' hate mail. It just didn't work. In 1970, the series got canceled with issue 66.
Yeah.
Kind of laid around for a year or so, and then it went into reprints. And at that time, Marvel was having a lot of success because they could take the early works of the Fantastic Four Spider-Man. There was a book called Marvel Tales that was reprinting Spider-Man. There was, I can't remember, Marvel Triple Action was reprinting the Avengers. The Fantastic Four had a series that was reprinting their books.
Yeah, those reprint books sold.
Oh, they sold very well. I bought lots of them. They sold really good. I'll tell you how good they sold. A few years ago, this is probably 15 years ago, I wanted to read the classic Silver Surfers, and I couldn't find. I didn't want to drop $40 in the Masterworks. Yeah. What I found at Bob's was the 18 issues of reprints and paid like $1 a piece for it, man.
Oh, there you go.
and got them all. And I forget what they were called. They reprinted the Submariner series. Yeah, dude. I mean, they still sell well. I mean, you can still go to Bob's or the seller here in Memphis and find those issues, and you can buy them. You know, that original Silver Surfer #1 goes for several $100s. You can find a reprinted copy for $1.
Yeah.
Or anywho, so Stan Lee goes the way of and that's a Stan Lee episode. You know, he started his college tours and went to Hollywood and started doing all that thing. And,
he's
and
in
left
office less.
A lot less, and left the running of Marvel on a day-to-day basis to Roy Thomas, who was the second editor-in-chief. Excuse me. And Len Wein went to him and said, look, let's do something with the X-Men. And they kicked it around and came up with Giant Size X-Men #1. They got to look for that because it's not here in Uncanny. And so you go to the G's and it's under Giant Size and you find Giant Size X-Men #1. And that came out in January of 75. And it sold extremely well. Now, contrary to popular belief, Chris Claremont did not write that issue. It did not recreate these X-Men. Okay.
That's funny because if you look under Chris Claremont in
I understand.
He's credited with writing it.
I understand. He is credited with writing it. He did not. I actually broke out some of my encyclopedias I've got a couple of books on Marvel history, and I went and looked, and if you open the cover, his name is nowhere there.
It was Len Wein.
Yeah, it was Len Wein and Dave Cockrum.
Yeah.
And I think Roy Thomas contributed to it a lot. So they do Uncanny #1, or excuse me, Giant Size X-Men #1, which is where it's at. And it sells well. It became an instant classic. And they're like, okay, let's do something with the Uncanny. Who wants to write it? And Chris Claremont's hand immediately went up in the air and said, I do. And he launched it in August of 75. So that's 8 months after Giant Size #1 hit stand. Okay, so it's not like, it was 1 month it's Giant Size #1, next month it's Uncanny #4, 94. It's just, there was a long period there in between. Now, let me digress a moment. As I said, I really dove in deep on this. Okay,
yeah,
I strapped on the oxygen tanks and went deep. At that time, comic books, and we've all seen the spinner racks. Okay, now the way comics were sold is they would show up. I bought my comics at a little store called the Magic Market. Okay, it was kind of like a 7-Eleven. It was like a quarter mile up the street from where we lived, and I could walk up there and get them. And they would just appear on the spinner racks. They would sell. If they didn't sell, this is no exaggeration, the manager of the store would stand with the guy who put them out. They would rip the cover off of it, send it back to Marvel, and Marvel didn't have to pay for it, or in the store manager and the distributor didn't have to pay for it. They were returned to Marvel without a cover, and they got a refund.
Yeah.
Okay. If you ever wonder why Marvel got in bed with Diamond Comics and a couple of other distributors in the 80s, it's so they wouldn't get comics back with the cover torn off of them. That's why. That's how magazines are still done today. When you see magazines at a grocery store, the guy comes through once a week and, sees what he's got to pull off, what he's got to put up. They're thrown in a basket and sent back to the publisher, and they don't got to pay for them.
Right. Some might argue that move by the comic book industry has done serious damage.
I believe it has, and that's another podcast for another day because we're already like 12 minutes into this one. Yes.
Yeah.
So, but here's what happened. If you look, these things were shipped bi-monthly. Okay. So if you look at the ship dates, the ship date of 94 is August of 75, October of 75 for 95, December of 75 for 96. It's literally shipping every 2 months. So every 8 weeks, I have to try and remember to find Uncanny X-Men, which made the sales hard. It made them hard trudging. The thing was, the comics were so good that even with those problems, roof. Okay. It just, what they were doing. Second issue out of at first it was Claremont Cockrum, which was Uncanny 95. They killed Thunderbird. Okay, they killed a Native American on the team, and not like kill him like, okay, you know, 2 issues he's going to come back. No, killed him. That dude's still dead. Okay,
that dude has been dead for
40 years. Yeah. I mean, they killed him dead. Yeah. And the thing is, as they're going here, they're creating all these characters and villains that would become iconic. They do the space station story, and that leads up to Uncanny number 100. And if you read this, you read 94 through 100, you can see where Claremont's kind of getting his ground under him. Okay. And he's kind of like feeling what he's doing. And understand that's a year's worth of book. It's only 7 books, but it's a year's worth. And if you're looking at Chris Claremont's name, he's writing lots of other stuff. He's writing Iron Fist. He's doing some Marvel team ups. He's doing other things. But he's kind of getting his ground under him. So by the time you get to 100 and 101, you get the birth of Phoenix. And instantly, even though it would be 35 issues later, which that's 1976, you're in, where are we when she dies? When she dies, you're in 1980. Okay, so you're 4 years between 101 and 136. He laid the seeds for what he was doing there in 100 and 101. Because in 100, 101, 102, she has these powers and she doesn't know what to do with them. She doesn't know how to control them. Okay, they're too much for her. And Uncanny 104, they fight Magneto for the first time. And that was actually the first Uncanny that I bought off the stand. And again, this is something you didn't see all the time. It wasn't that Magneto stomped the X-Men in this issue, and then you come back next issue and there's a rematch and the X-Men put him in his place. No, he stomped them and left them for dead.
Yeah.
Said, peace out. Great issue, man. I mean, I read that issue and I was like, okay, I got to find this. I don't know what there was about it, but I was like, I got to find it.
Well, it was something you'd never seen before. You know, to this point, comic books had been aimed towards kids. You had the Comics Code Authority that was lording over everyone, you know, making sure things didn't get too out of hand. And this was a slap in the face of that, saying, no, we can get darker. We can get deeper. You know, we can take this in places that we haven't been to before. And that was probably the appeal.
One of the rules of the Comics Code Authority was the heroes had to win.
Yeah.
Literally, the villains couldn't win. And they essentially broke this rule. It got through the Comics Code Authority. But, yeah.
I mean, I could see being, you know, a 10-year-old standing in a spinner rack, reading the last page of this and going, holy crap, when's the next issue come out? I got to know what happens.
Yeah. And, oh, by the way, I got to wait 2 months and then try and find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope it's on the spinner rack at the drugstore.
Yes. Dude, I was probably 13 or 14. And by that time we had moved and I was buying in another store when I talked to the manager of the store and said, okay, tell me when they come in. Okay, what day do I have to be here to see what books come in when? And I would have to save money to get the books when they came in.
Yeah,
it was crazy, man.
You're trying to set up a pull list with your drugstore guy.
Yeah, it was insane, and that's why these comics are so expensive. Is because they were so good, and the print run on them was so small. But by the time the next run goes from 105 to 108, the next storyline, and it's the Shi'ar, it's the Starjammers, it's Gladiator, it's Princess Lilandra, soon become Empress Lilandra, soon to become Xavier's wife. In those 4 issues, they created just a monster of characters that exist in Marvel to this day, that are just fundamental to the Marvel universe. And issue 108 is when John Byrne came along. Now, if you look at 108, 109, 110, you see that John Byrne is there as a co-creator. He was literally co-writing these things with Chris Claremont because they were using the Marvel method, which we've discussed before, where the writer kind of submits it and the artist draws it and they go back and put the thing on it. John Byrne is co-creator on all this stuff. Chris Claremont gets all the credit, but Byrne did a whole lot of the work, man. You're snickering at something.
My Dungeons and Dragons group text is just popping off right now.
Are they having issues?
No, they're having a good time, and I'm laughing.
Okay.
I'm paying attention. Just there's funny stuff happening.
In issue 109, we get the introduction of Alpha Flight, in this case, Guardian, which eventually becomes Alpha Flight. I'm going to wrap it up with this. Uncanny 110 through 113. And at this point, I was making sure I did not miss an issue under any circumstances. Is the rematch with Magneto. And this one, they don't defeat him. It's essentially a draw on this one. He goes away and the X-Men barely get out alive. But at this point, they're still laying the seeds for it. In number 104, they laid the seeds for the Proto story. I hope I pronounced that correctly. It didn't manifest till 126. They're just laying all the seeds for all the things in the future. If you look at Byrne's art there in 110, 111, 112, he absolutely figured out what he was doing. Dude, it was just off the chain. Finally, at 113, the freaking thing went monthly, and it was about time.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, you're 3 years in, and it finally goes monthly because the sales were just, dude, they were great, man.
Yeah.
And this will wrap up part 1. We'll get to part 2 next week.
Which I assume we'll get into the Phoenix Saga.
We'll get into, we'll probably do the Phoenix Saga in the next episode. But what Claremont and Cockrum and Byrne did here is just, dude, I mean, they were creating characters that they did stuff. And there's a side note. One of those interviews I watched with Claremont, he made a note that he made a whole lot more money off the X-Men movies than he did off the X-Men comic books.
I believe that.
So somehow he got a kickback from it. I don't know if he got some consulting fees or writing fees, but somehow he got a kickback from it.
He's got a good agent who said, "Hey, if you put this movie on without paying my guy, we're going to sue the living crap out of you."
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. But you can find most of the stuff under, if you go to search and by creator, you can find it under Chris Claremont. You can also find a good bit of it under just the Uncanny X-Men. If you're searching for it, you can find it under, if you do like reading lists, you can find it under the X-Men. You can find this stuff in a bunch of different places in Unlimited. It's very good. And if you want to read this stuff in terms of like what's happening with the story, but you don't want to go back and read all these old comics, you need to check out the X-Men Grand Design stuff by Ed Piskor that's been coming out, because it lays out all of the events and makes direct references to all these things while also putting it into a coherent storyline. That's kind of what inspired this episode. But I think it would behoove, I mean, if you're the kind of person who's listening to this podcast, it would behoove you to go back and read the individual issues, especially since they're all here in Unlimited.
Yeah, and they're off the chain. And we're going to talk about the classic X-Men, which is where they restarted reprinting these books, because what they would do is they would reprint this book, and then they would put a backup story in there of 6 or 8 pages with new art, new story that fit in with it. So it would be like something from the Dark Phoenix saga, but it was like, it was 10, 12 years after. So yeah, those stories are there too.
Cool. Well, all right, y'all. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
The website where you will find all the notes for this is www.6monthsbehind.com.
And please check out our other show, 6 Months Behind. It is where we discuss on a weekly basis all the new comic books coming to Unlimited. We break them all down and review them all, tell you what to read, what not to read. what you might want to read. Anyway, it's a good show. Check it out. Pat, you got anything else before we go?
I don't, man. I'm really enjoying this. I was surprised we hadn't covered it before, and I'm really enjoying doing it.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll get into Chris Claremont's X-Men and the Dark Phoenix saga next time. See you then.
Peace.